excuse me, to ask about a couple things. In your presentation, it was highlighted in a way that really foregrounded it. You spoke often about the misconceptions, the received versions, the natural tendency. It is often maintained that, or most of what passes for writing on Jewish history. It strikes me that in many ways your book is an indictment of conventional wisdom and conventional history. And so my question is, where did that misperception come from? These tendencies don't fall from the sky. What is it that required you to set something so wrong so right?
Zionism and sentimentality. Zionism, because Zionism has, and I speak as a Zionist, but Zionism has infected the writing of history, modern Jewish history. One can see it, for example, in David Vital's
yes, exactly.
history. You agree? Oxford History of the Jews in Europe between the 18th century and 1939, which is a teleological work.
Yes.
Which seeks, he is a Zionist, but he allows his Zionism to overcome his writing of history, I fear. I said this in a review, because he does argue that really everything was moving from 1745, when he begins with the expulsion of the Jews from Prague by Maria Theresia, to, or the threatened expulsion, to 1939, where he ends. Everything was proceeding down a line where life in the diaspora had to become impossible. That is a Zionist reading of Jewish history, where what is called in Zionist ideology, negation of the diaspora reaches its culmination, of course, in the Holocaust. Life in the diaspora was absolutely impossible, and therefore the only solution was Zionism. That is one thing, and the other thing I fear is sentimentality. Fiddler on the Roof, Chicken Soup, versions of Jewish history, lovable characters in the shtetl, and so forth. As many writers, I'm not the first to say this, have pointed out, and as Jeffrey reiterated, life in the shtetl was miserable, which was why Jews were desperately trying to escape from it. So I think these two forces are things that I'm trying to overcome, and they have, I'm not saying that they affect all Jewish writing, or all writing on Jewish history. In particular, many historians, interestingly, in Israel in recent years have quite apart from writing on the history of Israel, but writing on the history of Jews outside Israel, have sought to overcome the really clampdown of ideology that was imposed on Jewish history by the so-called Jerusalem school of historians in the early part of this century. Great historians in many ways, but highly ideological historians.
Let me add to